If these allegations are true, and I'm going to emphasize if, because everyone deserves due process, including the officers who allegedly orchestrated this, then we're looking at First Amendment violations, retaliation for protected political speech, Fourth Amendment violations, arrest without probable cause, 14th Amendment violations, denial of due process, and a slew of potential criminal charges, including false imprisonment, conspiracy, deprivation of rights under color of law. This isn't about Democrat versus Republican. This is about whether law enforcement can jail someone because they don't like their politics. And if they can do it to one of their own, someone who knows the system, who has colleagues, who has resources, imagine what they can do to regular citizens. In a democracy, we grant police extraordinary powers. The power to detain, to arrest, to use force. But what happens when those who enforce the law become the ones breaking it? Today, we're looking at Tennessee, where allegations of constitutional violations, political retaliation, and corruption are raising serious questions about who polices the police. I'm Sera, and this is Ethos Trek. Let's start with something that sounds like it couldn't possibly be legal. Well, because it's not. In Tennessee, as in many states, arrest quotas are explicitly illegal. The reason is simple. Policing should be about public safety, not numbers. When officers are pressured to meet quotas, innocent people get swept up into the system. But here's the problem. What the law says and what actually happens in some departments aren't always the same thing. Multiple Tennessee law enforcement agencies have faced allegations of implementing DUI arrest quotas. Officers have come forward, often at great personal cost, claiming they've been pressured to make a certain number of DUI arrests per month, regardless of whether legitimate probable cause exists. Think about what that means. An officer pulls you over. Maybe you rolled through a stop sign. Maybe your tail light is out. The officer smells nothing. You're coherent. But they need to hit their numbers this month. Suddenly you're asked to step out of the vehicle. Field sobriety test, breathalyzer, maybe even a trip downtown. Even if the charges are eventually dropped, you've lost hours of your life, possibly spent money on a lawyer, and had your dignity trampled. All because a department needed to justify its budget or prove it's tough on drunk driving. If you aren't drunk and you don't get the charges dropped, this charge can ruin lives. Insurance rates go up, and in some cases, you can lose your job because your job requires a clean driving record. This isn't just a violation of policy. When officers arrest people without probable cause, they're violating the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, let's talk about a case that's even more troubling. Partly because it involves one of their own, and partly because it's sort of a constitutional what the. Let's give you some background. Hold on to your shorts. A retired law enforcement officer by the name of Larry Bouchard posted, or rather reposted, a meme. The meme in question was originally posted by Donald Trump, which contained a verifiable caption added by Donald Trump. This caption read, quote, "We need to get over this," unquote. The original meme was posted by Donald Trump in response to a school shooting. Trump posted that meme in response to the school shooting in Perry, Iowa, during which one student died and several were injured, including a vice principal. Let that sink in for a minute. The meme in question about the school shooting in Perry, Iowa, and the President of the United States, well, at the time he was a candidate, but he was a former president, had written, quote, "We need to get over this," unquote. Fast forward to the shooting death of Charlie Kirk, and that meme was reposted by Larry Bouchard with the comment below it that it seemed relevant. The sheriff of Perry County, Tennessee, Nick Weems, arrested Bouchard because he at first, and that at first is important, claimed Bouchard's meme, no, it was actually President Trump's meme, seemed threatening. Then when pushed by a media outlet, Weems said he was well aware that there was no threat and said that the community felt threatened. So he had to arrest Bouchard. That's not law enforcement, nor is it an excuse. Then Weems changed his story again and said, well, he didn't know. He still had to arrest him because he was sick of memes and wanted to send a message. Still, after all of Nick Weems' story changes, Bouchard sat in jail for over a month. Why did Bouchard sit in jail for that long? A $2 million, let me repeat that, $2 million bond was affixed to his apparent non-charges. Now, if you remember, Weems had already said that he knew there wasn't actually any threat in the meme. Yet, there was a $2 million bond. Now, let me give you a little context here. Multi-million-dollar bonds are used for high-stakes criminal cases, such as murder, such as kidnapping, or some white-collar crimes like fraud, sometimes drug trafficking cases, or cases that would likely result in substantial judgments. This was a meme. Even the alleged shooter in the Charlie Kirk's killing, which was not a political assassination, for those who need to hear it, see previous videos for that definition. The alleged shooter in Charlie Kirk's killing was only assigned a $1 million bond. So why the multi-million-dollar bond for Larry Bouchard? Not because he committed a crime. Surely not because evidence was presented against him in court that would justify that kind of bond. But allegedly because he expressed political views by posting a meme online that didn't align with the dominant ideology of Weems' department. However, given the bond, multi-million-dollar bond, there had to have been a hearing. There had to have been a judge. Consider all the moving parts that have to go in to getting a bond like that. Now, as of a few days ago, the charges against Bouchard were dropped. But that doesn't change anything about the facts. The multi-million-dollar bond, the arrest, and let's pick a good Potterism here. The bull biscuit charge. According to reports, retired Officer Bouchard, and let's be clear, someone trained in constitutional rights, someone who took an oath to uphold them, was targeted for his political speech. The First Amendment is unambiguous here. The government cannot punish you for your political views. And when we say the government, that includes police departments. When we say punish, that includes
false arrest and imprisonment. If these allegations are true, and I'm going to emphasize if, because everyone deserves due process, including the officers who allegedly orchestrated this, then we're looking at First Amendment violations, retaliation for protected political speech, Fourth Amendment violations, arrest without probable cause, 14th Amendment violations, denial of due process, and a slew of potential criminal charges, including false imprisonment, conspiracy, deprivation of rights under color of law. This isn't about left versus right. This isn't about Democrat versus Republican. This is about whether law enforcement can jail someone because they don't like their politics. And if they can do it to one of their own, someone who knows the system, who has colleagues, who has resources, imagine what they can do to regular citizens.
So, how does this happen? How do we get to a place where quotas are enforced despite being illegal, where officers are jailed for their political views, where constitutional violations are not only tolerated, but allegedly encouraged? It comes down to culture. In some departments, there's an unwritten code: loyalty above legality. Don't question, don't report, don't break ranks, and if you do, you become the enemy. This creates an environment where whistleblowers are punished instead of protected, corruption festers unchecked, citizens' rights become secondary to departmental priorities, political ideology becomes a litmus test for who gets justice and who doesn't. And here's the thing that should worry everyone. This isn't just a Tennessee problem. These issues exist in law enforcement agencies across the country. But Tennessee does have some specific challenges. Limited state-level oversight of local departments, qualified immunity protections that make it difficult to hold officers personally accountable, strong police unions that sometimes protect problematic officers, a political climate where questioning law enforcement is seen as being anti-cop. So, what's the solution? First, let's be really clear about what the solution is not. It's not demonizing all police. The vast majority of law enforcement officers are dedicated public servants who risk their lives to protect communities. They dislike corrupt cops as much as anyone, maybe more, because corrupt cops make their jobs harder and more dangerous. The solution is accountability, real accountability. That means 1, independent oversight. Every department needs robust, independent civilian oversight. Not internal affairs investigating their own colleagues. Not the DA who works with these officers every day, deciding whether to prosecute them. Independent bodies with subpoena power and real authority. 2, ending qualified immunity abuse. Qualified immunity was meant to protect officers making split-second decisions in good faith. It was never meant to shield officers who knowingly violate constitutional rights. Reform is needed. 3, protecting whistleblowers. Officers who report corruption should be heroes, not pariahs. Tennessee needs stronger whistleblower protections with real teeth, including financial penalties for departments that retaliate. 4, banning quotas. For real. It's not enough to make quotas illegal on paper. There need to be consequences, severe ones, for supervisors who implement them. Think termination, think criminal charges. 5. Transparency. Disciplinary records, use of force statistics, complaint data. These should be public. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. 6. Federal intervention, when necessary. When local and state systems fail, the Department of Justice needs to step in with pattern or practice investigations and consent decrees. Here's what concerns me and frankly keeps me up some nights. Every day that officer or anyone else sits in jail without cause is another day our Constitution means nothing. Every person arrested to meet a quota is another person whose faith in the justice system is shattered. And every officer who stays silent, who knows what's happening but says nothing because they're afraid, is another person trapped in an impossible situation. This isn't about being anti-police. This is about being pro-Constitution, pro-justice, pro-accountability. Because if we're a nation of laws, those laws have to apply to everyone, especially those we trust to enforce them. Thanks for listening. If you're in Tennessee and have information about law enforcement misconduct, there are resources available. Contact the ACLU of Tennessee, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI's Civil Rights Division. Links will be in the description box below. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not from Tennessee. As some would say around here, I'm from up north der he. I was alerted to both these Tennessee issues primarily by a content creator named Tennesse Brando. Tennesse Brando is a blue dot in a blood red state. I personally enjoy his content and his perspective. I'll leave an @ to his channel in the description box below if you want to check him out for his take on things going on in Tennessee and across the political spectrum. Until next time, if you're in Tennessee, and until we have an administration who is interested in accountability, do not even wobble between the lanes. Eyes on the road at all times. This is Ethos Trek. I'm Sera, and I'll be back in a day or two.